Hi and welcome to our final section, section 5, where we will learn about how to work with Angular 2 in the long run. We are specifically going to learn about the best practices for Angular 2, talk about the future of ES6, and show you where to find help and support for Angular 2. Now let's move on to the first video of this section, where we're going to learn about the best practices for Angular 2. First, I will show you where the best practices document can be found. Then we will highlight the most important best practices from that document. Finally, we will understand why it's important to follow those practices. Let's start by taking a look at the best practices document, which is something that already existed for Angular 1. It collects patterns and practices that have been proven to result in cleaner and more maintainable applications. It's endorsed by the Angular team from their own experience of developing Angular 1 and Angular 2. Here is the URL for that document. Let's take a look at what's inside. Here is the Angular 2 style guide. It's basically a list of rules grouped into 10 different categories. Most of those rules are common sense and well-known design patterns that you probably already know and apply in your day-to-day coding duties. Yet some of them are not that obvious, like the folders by feature structure. In our sample app, we had a components folder, a services folder, and so on. We should have grouped files by features instead of grouping them by type. For instance, using the folders by feature rule, we would have a forecast folder in which we would have a forecast.component.ts and a forecast.service.ts file, which is the naming convention outlined in that guide. Here the Angular team explains why it's important to follow those rules in the context of migrating from Angular 1 to Angular 2. For instance, the rule of having one component per file makes it easier to migrate our code incrementally, file by file. The same applies to the folders by feature structure, on a higher level, so that we can easily migrate our code feature by feature. Most of those rules come from architecture decisions made by the Angular team to make our applications easier to develop and maintain. This is the reason why the style guide is not just for the sake of the upgrade, it has some really solid advice in general. Another benefit of using it is that most examples and code snippets you'll find online follow those guidelines. As a result, knowing those rules will make it easier for you to understand code written by somebody else. In this video, we have learned about the Angular Style Guide, which is a best practices document, and so how those guidelines can help us in the long run.